Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. As always, this is Stephanie, the founder of Host Agency Reviews, and this is the Friday 15, where every Friday, 12 p.m. Central Time, you'll have to do the math if you're in different time zones, as that's difficult. So every Friday, 12 p.m. Central Time, we answer your industry questions and have two wonderful co-hosts on today. We have Shayna Zand on, the Managing Director of Host Agencies. Of Host Agencies. Of Host
Your
Agency
own
Reviews.
company, Steph.
You know, I'm not a morning person, and I know what you're saying. 12 p.m. isn't morning, but it is for some people. Okay, other co-host on today is very fun because it's another Stephanie. It is Stephanie Pickles with PTN Travel. Welcome back, Stephanie.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here again.
Yes, so excited to have you. We've got some great questions today. Let's see. I don't think we really have any like specific call to actions for people, but Shayna, let's jump into the questions. We were saying before that we're going to try to keep this under like the Friday 15 to the Friday maybe 20. So we'll see if we can do it today.
Yeah. Good luck to us all. Here we go. Okay. So first question that we have, really interesting one. So where do I find a list of all host agencies in Japan? So like Host Agency Reviews has for the US and Canada, I want to start a branch operation in Japan. What are the accreditations in Japan? What should I be looking for with regards to Japan?
Yeah.
Stephanie, do you have anything on this before we jump in?
So I kind of looked this up just a little bit. And so I found out, there is something called the Japan Association of Travel Agents, the JATA. So that would be a great resource. It would be similar to ASTA. So I think that's a great resource to check out and talk to them about. And there was another one, the All Nippon Travel Agents Association, the ANTA, which could be a relevant organization with exploring accreditation. So those are the kind of things that I found that you can check out.
Perfect. We're going to link to those for you. And then I want to share with people really quickly. So for those listening on the audio version, you're going to have to, again, imagine things. But on our host agency list, we just added, before we had filters that you can accept advisors that are based in the US and in Canada. Now we have one for worldwide. So that should also help you narrow things down on which host agencies will help, will work with someone in Japan, Joseph. But in terms of other resources for you, so we're going to link to the ones that Stephanie went ahead and shared with us, but there's two other ones. I don't know of any actual host agencies in Japan, but like Stephanie was doing with the, I think it was the JATA you said, sometimes what I find is easiest is going to the destination or the source because they're going to know who the local agencies are. So what I would recommend is the Japan National Tourism Association, JNTO. We'll link to that and you can reach out to them. They're very responsive, really great. And then the other one is, I don't know how to pronounce this. I go WATA because it's WTAAA. It's like the World Travel Agency Associations, something like that. But essentially, it's the group of ASTAs, of ACTAs, of JATA, of all of those around the world that kind of work together. So they might be able to help you find some resources in Japan. So we were linked to those for you, Joseph, and thank you for writing in.
Great question.
Yeah, very good question. All right, the next one, also a really great question. If an independent contractor neglects to renew their Florida Sellers of Travel Independent Sales Agent license, that's a mouthful. If they neglect to renew that on time, what are the repercussions by the state? How have other hosts handled this situation? And is the host liable? So a little bit of a three-parter.
Lot of lot of stuff there. Before we jump over to you, Stephanie, to here,
Yeah.
I just want to, for those that are like, what in the world are we asking here? So the seller of travel license, we're going to link to our article on that. It's actually a registration, as I was told by Peter Labasso at ASTA. He's like, it's not a license, Steph, it's a registration.
Yeah.
But anyhow, the seller of travel registration, if you're with a host agency, if you meet certain criteria, which will be listed in the article that we'll link to, you're able to kind of come in as, you don't have to pay the full price that a normal host or a normal agency does. You're able to pay a discounted rate. There's just certain criteria you need to meet. So that's what the person is asking, is if they're belonging to a host agency, they've met this criteria and they're paying the $50 a year for this in Florida, what happens if they don't do that? So Stephanie, have you run into this? What's your experience?
Yes. So this does, so this does come up because, Florida does check and make sure. So as a host agency, we have to send a list of who our Florida sellers are, whether that's they reside in Florida or they sell to Florida, and we send Florida the list. So what Florida will do is they'll make sure that they are registering with that independent advisor form that you were discussing just a minute ago, and that they're keeping up with it and renewing it. If they're not, Florida will actually come back to us and say, hey, these advisors have not renewed or have not registered with Florida. And what we will do is we will try to contact that advisor to get them to take care of the situation. What can happen is either if the advisor decides not to do anything about that, now Florida will also contact that advisor too, trying to get them to register, not just the host agency. And I would think that they would do that before they would come to the host agency and ask about that. But they can be fined. They can be sent a cease and desist letter from an attorney, from the state of Florida, which you don't want any of that, no legal things. And then we can also, as the host agency, if you're not doing what you're supposed to do with the seller of travel, we can remove you from from hosting with us. Mm-hmm. So it is a big deal. And it's something, a good way to remember is to make sure you're putting it on your calendar every year to make sure you're renewing that. I mean, you can just put an automated calendar reminder a month or 2 months ahead of time and just make sure you're on top of that. It's pretty easy to do with Florida. You just send that in and pay the fee, and it's not a big deal. But yeah. And it's not too expensive either.
No, I think last I remember it was $50. They might have.
Yeah, I think it's 50.
But it's not.
I was thinking 52. I don't think it's more than 100. I mean, mm-hmm. But it's not expensive.
Yeah. The one thing I'll add to that is the host agency is not going to be liable. It's going to be the advisor that's liable, because the host is following proper protocols. They have the registration. You're the one that doesn't. And so you're the one that would kind of be getting the cease and desist and be getting any fines. Do you want to add anything to that, Shayna?
No, I think both of you covered that pretty well. I think the only thing I would note is that it doesn't apply to every state. So they're asking about Florida because not every state has this law or this rule. So just to be aware of where you, as an advisor, where you are operating. But Florida is one of the few states that has something like this. So just to be aware of that.
Yes. Yeah. And Florida and California are the ones that heavily enforce it. Mm-hmm. Washington, I mean, I'm not saying don't follow Washington's laws, but I am saying maybe they're not as on top of it as Florida might be.
Yeah.
So
Florida and California are definitely the high. Yeah, they're definitely
the most communicative.
We talk to them on a regular basis. Yeah.
Perfect.
Things. Yeah. All right. Final question. I quite like this question. It's a good one. From Larry is, why would there be a foreign transaction fee when you're paying the supplier? So why would that happen, or how would that happen?
Great question. Stephanie.
Yeah.
So it could be because the supplier is there could be several different things with this. I mean, we talk lots of different ways. It could be because the supplier, which could even be a small supplier like a DMC, is located outside of the United States, even though they're charging US dollars amount, and they have to collect a transaction fee for that. That could be why, but there's several ways to kind of, and not several ways, but there is a way to go around that. And I think this changes for different people. Like, for example, all my credit cards, I make sure that I get credit cards that don't have foreign transaction fees. So I never just never anything I have to worry about or think about. So it's always a good idea to look into that whenever you're getting a credit card.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's one of my first things I look at whenever I'm looking at for a credit card. The other thing is, even though maybe a big corporation is outside of the United States, but they're a big supplier. I'm trying to think of an example. Maybe like,
Dun.
A big supplier.
I'm thinking of a few, and then I'm like, wait a second, I'm not 100% sure, because I always use because I don't book a lot, obviously, because I own the company, so my agents, and I'm thinking, but I was thinking like AMA Waterways is a pretty big company. Cunard is a pretty big company, but even though they're with Carnival. So I don't, and then I'm like, well, is Carnival actually, there's something. So maybe that wasn't the best advice right there, but
we'll back it up.
Yeah.
Huh?
The really great advice is the credit card getting the no foreign transaction fees, because that actually is something. We have something about credit cards in our 7-day setup program,
right?
And we talk about the things to look for, the annual fees, what kind of perks are involved, and the foreign transaction fees when you're traveling. Not only when you're traveling for work, but also if you're, for whatever reason, having to purchase something on your own, that's going to have a foreign transaction fee. It's very handy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And if y'all can think of one of those big suppliers, that'd be helpful.
Shayna, let's hear your take, because you come from the tour operator side and are very familiar with these and payment gateways. So
yeah.
Yes. So I worked for a tour operator that their home base was Australia. So they're an Australian company. They do operate in multiple areas of the world. But there's a few things. Larger tour operators will price in multiple currencies, and they're what we call a PSP, so they're payment service provider. So the company they're using to effectively take payments typically has multi-currency availability. So as long as the currency that the credit card is in, for example, mine would be Canadian, right? I can pay for a lot of things with my credit card. Also has no foreign transaction fees, but if it did, then I could pay in Canadian dollars, even though this is an Australian company, because of the multi-currency that they have available with their payment provider. However, kind of like what Stephanie was saying, where you have smaller DMCs that maybe only have a provider that accepts in US dollars or accepts in a specific currency, and your client is based in Canada like me, or in the UK or somewhere else where they're paying with that local card, they may have those foreign transaction fees. And honestly, it's better just to let your client know upfront that this is a possibility. If you're not 100% sure, always cover your bases. But when you're speaking to your supplier, whether it's a DMC, which we'll link to the article on what DMCs are, who they are as well from our blog, so you can understand how they work, but more on the ground operations. But you can ask them ahead of time so that you can give your client all the information they need. But typically it has to do with the payment service provider that your supplier is using. Larger suppliers use multi-currency payment providers. Local DMCs or smaller tour operators may not, although it's becoming more readily available now, which is great for them.
Perfect.
Yes, that is a good answer. Good job.
15 minutes for the win. I got the 15-minute mark.
Wow, good.
This happens like 6 times a year, so it's pretty exciting. Well, Stephanie, if people want to learn more about PTN travel, and one thing I want to mention is if you're like, I haven't heard PTN travel before, it was just rebranded beginning of the year. It was Pickles Travel Network. They moved to Virtuoso. What was it, 2 years ago, Stephanie, or a year? Okay.
Almost 2 years ago.
So 2 years ago, so they're focused on luxury. And if you're interested in learning more, what's the best way? We'll link to your profile on HAR, but other places people can reach out.
Yeah, so the best, if you go to the profile in HAR, it's really great because it's got our, it'll take you directly to our website, all that information. You can also, schedule a call there. But we do discovery calls. We'll meet with you and go over what we're all about, and you can ask all of your questions and all that kind of stuff with no, we just want to get to know you and you to get to know us a little bit and see what we're all about, making sure we're a good fit. And that's what we're about too. We want to make sure that we're a good fit for each other, and then we have a relationship for a long time. So
yeah,
that's what we're looking for.
Love that.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. So upcoming on our Friday 15s, we have next week, April, I can't believe it's going to be April 11th, which, by the way, everyone, I may not be on the Friday 15 next week because we are driving from Tucson back to Minneapolis. So I'm going to be road tripping. I'm going to be stopping in Roswell, New Mexico, so I may never come back. I may be like zoomed up by aliens. I don't know. Very excited about that.
Host it. Yeah, she's making me host it by myself. I'm not nervous at all. I'm perfectly fine. I'm fine.
You're going to do amazing. I'm just going to be interrogated by aliens when we're in Roswell. So very exciting. So April 11th is going to be Montecito Village Travel. Following that, April 18th, we have Lavarte Travel on, and April 25th is a surprise because we don't have anyone there right now, but we may just find.
We do.
Oh, we do.
It's just not in the calendar. We just secured one, so we will see you there. Yes.
Shayna's surprising me. So, woo!
Correct.
Awesome. Well, just a reminder, if you enjoy the Friday 15, 1, we would love it if you could leave a review or a rating for us. And 2, you can go to hostagencyreviews.com/Friday15 to sign up for email reminders as well as text alerts with the Friday 15, who's going to be the co-host, what the questions are going to be ahead of time. So, Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
Yes.
Always fun hanging out with you.
Oh, super fun. Agreed. Well, Shayna, thanks for joining us as well. And thanks to all of you for joining us. And we will see you next Friday, 12 p.m. Central Time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.